So the co-op chargers in Saskatchewan, where we live, where we have sparse, big, vast land, very few towns, very even fewer cities, and it's hard to travel out here sometimes if you're not in a Tesla. So they are updating their charger. I went and tried it out. They downgraded from 2 chargers to 1, I believe, in Harbor Landing in Regina. And I was thrilled because, I mentioned that city on the way to your cottage, one of the routes to your cottage, Whitewood, has all the chargers down like for a year. For some of them were down for a year. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But what people don't realize is that one of the dealerships near there, I think in Indian Head, has a charger. So people just didn't realize that. They were just, but that was an option if you were smart. But a lot of new people who are buying EVs just aren't into it as much as us, and they're not, checking all the apps and getting all that information. So it's been a problem for at least one person that I read about on Facebook. But yeah, this they're now made by Flow, my favorite charging company, Brian, because Flow is a Canadian company. They are making, promising 98% uptime. I've never had trouble with their chargers. I've talked to their people on trouble lines because the first time I charged, I didn't know what I was doing, so I had to phone them. And they were very nice and walked me through it like I was getting nervous. Like, oh, what am I doing? I'm on this trip, my first trip, and I don't know what I'm doing. So, yeah, they're putting new chargers in Rosthern, which is a new town. So I'm hoping that other towns around here, because a lot of little towns have co-op gas stations in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and the prairies, where we need them most. And I'm just kind of hoping that they continue doing that. Another advantage for me, because I own a GM vehicle, the Bolt, is that it has plug and charge, or at least it should have plug and charge. When I charged, it was free, so it wasn't networked yet. But when it becomes networked, hopefully I can just plug it in and it'll bill me automatically. Before that, they had Shell. The evil Shell Oil Company was taking care of their chargers, and you had to sometimes use their Shell app, and they were just taking things over, and it was a crappy situation. They weren't working. In my trip this summer to Alberta, Medicine Hat, which is a charging desert, because it's oil country, they have co-op chargers that were broken, and hopefully they'll be fixing those sooner than later as well. And I know the Whitewood charger that I just mentioned, they're getting that fixed at the end of the month by September 30th, if you're a local listener.
Yeah, so it sounds like they gave up trying to fix them and just replaced them with ones that are actually going to work.
Which is a good idea. I'm glad to see that sort of attitude and not putting up with crap. Like, let's get going. Let's not ruin our brand here. Brian, I also wanted to mention when I was in Maple Creek, Saskatchewan charging, which is a little bit off the highway, that they have Tesla chargers right beside the co-op chargers that I was using. By the way, those ones work, although they're awkward to use. I said I almost got kicked out of the app for having the wrong password. They made you sign in even though you were signed in. I couldn't remember my password, and they were going to kick me out for half an hour. Anyway, there was a Rivian charging at the Tesla network right beside us, and I would have went and talked to them if I hadn't been freaking out about my own charging, and then they left promptly by the time I got mine going. But yeah, the Rivian was charging at the Tesla network, which they can do. So they've received an adapter in the mail from Rivian, and they can now charge on the Tesla network.
Yeah, and the Fully Charged show, or the Everything Electric show, just happened in Vancouver here in Canada.
Again, not invited.
Yeah,
Next year.
Next year. We need to get invited. But they had the new Rivian there, the R3, the smaller one, like the prototype.
Oh.
Yeah, so there was a bit of a reveal for that, of the smaller, cheaper, kind of hatchback-like
that would have been worth the price of admission right there. That's kind of exciting. I love Rivians.
No, it looks like a really interesting car. I think it'd be great.
I love the Rivian. It's pricey, though. That's the problem.
Yeah,
and
they're still expensive.
But at least you're getting what you pay for, because it is a very nice, it's a luxury vehicle. It's an adventure vehicle, but it's luxury.